She looked him dead in the eyes and asked if he had violated her. Alex, a man who had spent the entire night sleeping on her couch just to make sure she was safe, a man who gave her the shirt off his own back when hers was ruined, a man who could have walked away but stayed because she begged him not to leave her alone. One question. That's all it took to destroy everything he had built. His job, his reputation, his dignity, gone in an instant. And why? Because he was black, because he was poor, and because he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. They called him a predator. They edited videos to make him look like a monster. His own daughter came home from school crying, asking why everyone thought her daddy was a bad person. But here's what they didn't count on. The truth has a way of coming out. And when it did, the person who set him up lost everything, while Alex gained something he never expected. Stay until the very end, because what happens in that company-wide meeting will leave you absolutely speechless. And what his daughter said to him 1 year later, that will break your heart in the best way possible. Welcome to Real Black Voices. If this story moves you, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Now let me take you back to the night that almost ruined Alex Grant, and the morning that changed everything. 12 hours earlier, the Helios Corporation ballroom had been alive with celebration. Crystal chandeliers cast golden light over 300 employees gathered to commemorate the company's 10th anniversary. Champagne flowed freely. Laughter echoed off marble walls. Clinton stood near the service entrance in his crisp black suit, watching the festivities from a distance. As the company's senior driver, his job tonight was simple: be available, be invisible, be ready. His phone buzzed with a text from his daughter, Rachel. A photo of her gap-toothed smile and the words, "Good night, Daddy. Mrs. Patterson says I can stay up till you get home." Clinton smiled and typed back, "Be there by 11, baby girl. Love you." Being a single father at 37 wasn't easy. After his wife Monica passed away 3 years ago from cancer, Clinton had rebuilt his entire life around Rachel. Every decision he made, every extra shift he worked, every dream he quietly set aside, it was all for her. The small savings account he'd been building for years, hoping to one day open his own auto repair shop, grew slowly but steadily. He was in no rush. Stability mattered more than ambition when you had a 7-year-old depending on you. Across the ballroom, Olivia Ward commanded attention without trying. At 34, she was the youngest CEO in Helios history, a position she'd earned through relentless work and an almost inhuman ability to remain composed under pressure. Tonight, she wore a sleek black dress that matched the steel in her eyes. She moved through the crowd like a queen surveying her kingdom, shaking hands, accepting congratulations, never letting her smile reach her eyes. But Clinton had been watching people long enough to notice the cracks. He saw how her smile faltered when she glanced at her phone, how her grip on her champagne glass tightened after speaking with the board members, how she drifted toward the bar more frequently as the night wore on. By 10 o'clock, Olivia was on her 6th glass of champagne. By 11, she could barely stand straight. Derek Simmons noticed too. The director of operations was a tall, silver-haired man with a politician's smile and a predator's patience. At 42, Derek had been the presumptive heir to the CEO position before Olivia was appointed 2 years ago. The board had chosen youth and vision over experience and loyalty. Derek had smiled graciously at the announcement, shaken Olivia's hand, and pledged his full support. But Clinton had driven Derek home enough times to hear the phone calls, the bitter complaints to old colleagues, the not-so-subtle suggestions that Olivia was in over her head and that her tenure would be short-lived. Tonight, Derek watched Olivia stumble near the bar with the focused attention of a man who saw opportunity in another's weakness. "Perhaps I should escort Ms. Ward home," Derek offered smoothly, approaching Megan, Olivia's executive assistant, with practiced concern. "She seems unwell." Megan was a sharp-eyed woman in her late 20s who had worked with Olivia for 3 years. She looked at Derek the way a gazelle looks at a lion, pretending to be friendly. "That won't be necessary, Mr. Simmons. I'll arrange her transportation." Derek's smile didn't falter. "Of course. Just trying to help." As soon as Derek walked away, Megan scanned the room until she found Clinton. "I need you," she said quietly, pulling him aside. "Miss Ward needs to go home, and I don't trust anyone else to do it properly. Can you handle this?" Clinton understood what she wasn't saying. A drunk female CEO, a city full of people who would pay good money for compromising photos, an opportunity for someone with bad intentions to take advantage. "I'll take care of it," he said. Getting Olivia into the car was harder than Clinton expected. She kept insisting she was fine, that she just needed air, that everyone was overreacting. But her legs buckled twice before they reached the parking garage, and by the time Clinton eased her into the back seat of the company sedan, she had stopped protesting. The drive to her penthouse took 20 minutes. Most of it passed in silence, broken only by the soft hum of the engine and the occasional sounds of the city at night. Then, somewhere around the halfway point, Olivia spoke. "Do you know why I drank so much tonight?" Clinton glanced in the rearview mirror. In the dim light, Olivia looked younger somehow, smaller. The armor she wore so well during the day had cracked, revealing something raw underneath. "It's not my place to ask, ma'am." Olivia laughed bitterly. "No, I suppose it isn't." She stared out the window at the passing lights. "Maxwell Partners pulled out today. 30% of our projected revenue, gone. And tomorrow there'll be an article in the Tribune suggesting I got this job because I was sleeping with someone on the board." Her voice cracked. "I wasn't, by the way. Not that anyone will believe that." Clinton said nothing. There was nothing he could say. "Everyone leaves eventually," Olivia continued, almost to herself. "Everyone always leaves." By the time Clinton pulled into her building's garage, it was nearly 11:30. He helped her out of the car and into the elevator. The penthouse was stunning, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, modern furniture that probably cost more than Clinton's annual salary, and an emptiness that felt almost aggressive. Olivia stumbled toward the bedroom, then stopped abruptly and looked down at her blouse. Champagne stains covered the front. I need to change." She fumbled with the buttons, her fingers uncoordinated. Clinton quickly turned away. "Let me get you something to wear, ma'am." He found a robe in the bathroom, but when he returned, Olivia had already managed to get her blouse half off and was struggling with the rest. Without thinking, Clinton shrugged off his own button-down shirt and held it out to her, keeping his eyes fixed firmly on the wall. "Here, it's clean." He heard her take it, heard the rustle of fabric as she put it on. When he finally turned back around, she was sitting on the edge of the bed, wearing his oversized shirt like a dress, looking utterly lost. "Will you stay?" she asked suddenly. Clinton felt his stomach drop. "Ms. Ward, I don't think—" "Not like that." She shook her head slowly, as if the movement hurt. I don't want to be alone tonight. Everyone always leaves. Please, don't leave me like everyone else." Against every instinct screaming at him to get out, Clinton saw something in her eyes that stopped him cold. Not desire, not manipulation, just loneliness, deep and desperate and painfully familiar. "I'll be on the couch," he said quietly. "If you need anything, just call." Olivia nodded and lay back against the pillows. Within minutes, she was asleep. Clinton grabbed a blanket from the closet and settled onto the living room sofa. He pulled out his phone and sent a quick text to Mrs. Patterson. "Something came up at work. Won't make it home tonight. Can Rachel stay over? I'll explain tomorrow." The reply came almost immediately. "Of course, she's already asleep. Be safe." He set an alarm for 6 a.m. and stared at the ceiling, wondering if he was making the biggest mistake of his life. He never saw the figure in the shadows across the street, phone raised, capturing a photo of him supporting Olivia through the building's entrance. Now, standing in the cold light of morning, facing Olivia's accusation, Clinton wished he had trusted his instincts. "I'm telling you the truth, Miss Ward. Nothing happened." Olivia pressed her palms against her temples. "I don't remember. I don't remember anything after the elevator. I helped you change because your clothes were ruined. I gave you my shirt because it was all I had. I slept on the couch because you asked me not to leave. I never touched you. I never would." His phone buzzed. A text from Megan. "Get out of there, now. Someone sent a photo to HR." Clinton's blood ran cold. "What is it?" Olivia asked, seeing his expression change. Before he could answer, Olivia's own phone lit up with notifications. She grabbed it from the counter and stared at the screen, her face going pale. The photo showed Clinton with his arm around Olivia, guiding her through the building entrance. Out of context, without explanation, it looked damning. The caption circulating through the company's internal messaging system was worse. "Anyone else wondering what our driver was doing at the CEO's place last night?" Clinton watched Olivia's expression shift from confusion to something he couldn't quite read. Was it doubt? Suspicion? Fear? "Ms. Ward, I should go." "Yes." Her voice was hollow. "You should." Clinton gathered his jacket from the sofa and walked toward the door, feeling Olivia's eyes on his back with every step. At the threshold, he stopped. "For what it's worth," he said without turning around, "I would never hurt you. I hope you know that." He didn't wait for a response. The door clicked shut behind him, and Clinton stepped into the hallway, into a day that would change everything. His phone buzzed again. This time it was Rachel's school, reminding him about the parent-teacher conference next week. A conference he might not be able to attend if he lost his job. Clinton took a deep breath and headed for the elevator, his mind racing through every possible outcome of the morning's events. None of them looked good for a black man caught in a scandal with his white female boss. None of them looked good at all. By noon, the whispers had spread through every floor of Helios Corporation like wildfire. Clinton sat in a sterile conference room on the 4th floor, across from 2 HR representatives who looked at him the way one might look at something unpleasant stuck to the bottom of a shoe. The woman on the left, Patricia Holloway, Director of Human Resources, kept her pen poised over a legal pad. The man beside her, a junior associate whose name Clinton had already forgotten, refused to make eye contact. "Mr. Grant, we need you to walk us through the events of last night in detail," Patricia said. Her tone was professionally neutral, but Clinton could hear the accusation lurking beneath every word. He told them everything: the party, Megan's request, the drive, the champagne stains on Olivia's blouse, the couch. He left nothing out because he had nothing to hide. When he finished, Patricia exchanged a look with her colleague that made Clinton's stomach turn. "And you expect us to believe that nothing inappropriate occurred?" "It's the truth. Mr. Grant, you were found in the CEO's private residence. She was wearing your clothing. Surely you understand how this looks." Clinton understood perfectly. He was a black man in a room full of white people who had already decided what they believed. The evidence didn't matter. The truth didn't matter. What mattered was the story that fit most comfortably into their assumptions. "I understand how it looks," Clinton said carefully. "That's not the same as how it was." Patricia made a note on her pad. "We'll be conducting a full investigation. In the meantime, you're to have no contact with Ms. Ward. Is that understood?" Clinton nodded and was dismissed. The break room fell silent when he walked in to get his things from his locker. 3 co-workers who had been chatting by the coffee machine suddenly found reasons to be elsewhere. A 4th, a young man named Tyler who worked in the mailroom, shot Clinton a look of pure contempt before walking out. "Don't let them get to you." Clinton turned to find Megan standing in the doorway. She looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes suggesting she'd been putting out fires all morning. "They've already decided I'm guilty," Clinton said quietly. "Not everyone." Megan stepped closer, lowering her voice. "I know you didn't do anything wrong. I'm the one who asked you to take her home. I watched you help her to the car. You were a perfect gentleman. Can you tell HR that?" Megan's expression tightened. "I already did. They said my account was noted, but that they needed to conduct a thorough investigation based on the photographic evidence." She practically spat the last two words. "Someone's trying to set me up." "I know." Megan glanced toward the hallway, making sure they were alone. "I don't have proof yet, but I'm working on it. Just keep your head down and let the investigation run its course." Clinton wanted to believe her, but he had been black in America long enough to know how these things usually ended. Investigations were often just formalities, ways to document the conclusion that had already been reached. He collected his jacket and headed for the parking garage, feeling the weight of 100 invisible stares on his back. In her corner office on the 32nd floor, Olivia Ward stared at her computer screen, watching the same 30 seconds of security footage for the 15th time. The CCTV camera in her apartment building's lobby had captured everything. There was Clinton supporting her weight as she stumbled through the entrance. There she was, clearly intoxicated, leaning heavily against him. And there was Clinton's face, patient, careful, concerned, not predatory, not opportunistic, just a decent man helping someone who needed help. She switched to the hallway camera outside her door, watched herself fumble with the keys while Clinton stood at a respectful distance, watched him catch her when she nearly fell, watched him guide her inside with the gentle precision of someone handling something fragile. The elevator footage was even more damning to anyone who had accused Clinton of wrongdoing. She could see herself reaching for him, clutching his arm, mumbling words that the silent video couldn't capture, but that she now remembered with painful clarity. "Don't leave me, like everyone else." Clinton had never touched her inappropriately. He had never taken advantage. He had done exactly what he said he had done. Nothing more, nothing less. Olivia closed the video player and pressed her palms against her eyes. The right thing to do was obvious. Show the footage to HR. Clear Clinton's name. End this nightmare before it destroyed an innocent man's life. But even as she formed the thought, other voices crowded in. Her lawyer's voice, cold and pragmatic. "Don't admit to anything until the investigation concludes. Any statement you make could be used against the company." The board chairman's voice, dripping with barely concealed condescension. "Perhaps it's best if you let HR handle this. You don't want to appear to be interfering." And beneath all of that, the voice of her own shame. She had accused an innocent man. She had looked into his eyes that morning and asked if he had violated her, and she had seen the hurt that question caused. How could she face the company and admit that she, the CEO, the woman who prided herself on fairness and judgment, had suspected a man simply because he was black and poor and present? The feminist in her wanted to scream that she had every right to ask those questions, that women should always trust their instincts when they wake up in unfamiliar circumstances. But another part of her knew that her instincts hadn't been based on anything Clinton had actually done. They had been based on a lifetime of absorbed messages about black men, about danger, about whom to trust and whom to fear. She was supposed to be better than this. She had built her entire career on being better than this. Olivia's phone buzzed, a message from the board chairman. "Media inquiries starting to come in. Handle this quickly." She stared at the footage one more time, then closed her laptop without doing anything at all. The edited video appeared 2 days later. Clinton was eating a microwaved dinner with Rachel when his phone exploded with notifications. Text messages from numbers he didn't recognize. Social media alerts he rarely checked. A voicemail from his sister in Baltimore that just said, "Call me now." He pulled up the video that someone had sent him and felt his world collapse. It showed him at Olivia's building entrance, but the footage had been altered. Cut and spliced to remove context, it now appeared that he was dragging her through the door rather than supporting her. The timestamp had been manipulated. A new angle, clearly digitally created, made his grip on her arm look forceful, aggressive. The caption below read, "Caught on camera, Helios CEO assaulted by employee." Rachel looked up from her macaroni and cheese. "Daddy, why is your face so weird?" Clinton forced himself to smile. "It's nothing, baby. Finish your dinner." He stepped into the hallway and called Megan. She answered on the first ring. "I just saw it," she said before he could speak. "Clinton, that video is fake. The angles are wrong. The timing is off." "It doesn't matter if it's fake. It's everywhere." He was right. Within hours, the video had spread beyond Helios to social media platforms, gossip sites, and local news channels hungry for scandal. Someone had created a hashtag, "For Justice for Olivia." Comment sections filled with calls for Clinton's arrest. Strangers with no connection to either of them declared with absolute certainty that they knew exactly what had happened that night. The next morning, Clinton arrived at Helios to find a security guard waiting for him in the parking garage. "Mr. Grant, I need you to come with me." He was escorted to HR like a criminal, past rows of co-workers who stared or looked away or whispered to each other behind cupped hands. In the conference room, Patricia Holloway was waiting with a folder thick with printed screenshots and a facial expression that suggested the investigation had reached its conclusion. "Based on new evidence," she began, "the company has decided to place you on immediate suspension, pending further review. That video is doctored. Anyone who looks closely can see. That's not for us to determine, Mr. Grant. The matter has been referred to our legal team. I have a daughter. I can't afford to lose this job." Patricia's expression didn't change. "You should have considered that before—" "Before what?" Clinton stood, his chair scraping back. 4 years of keeping his head down, of swallowing insults and ignoring slights, of being twice as good to be considered half as worthy, all of it boiled up at once. Before I helped someone who asked for my help? Before I did my job? Before I was born black? The room went silent. Patricia set down her pen. "This meeting is over, Mr. Grant. Please collect your personal belongings and leave the premises. You will be contacted when a decision has been made." Rachel didn't understand why her father was home in the middle of the day. She didn't understand why he spent hours on the phone with lawyers who all seemed to give the same discouraging answers. She didn't understand why Mrs. Patterson from next door kept bringing over casseroles with sad eyes and pitying smiles. But she understood what happened at school. "They said you're a criminal," Rachel told him that evening, her small voice trembling. "Marcus and Tyler said they saw you on the news. They said you hurt a lady. They said you're going to jail." Clinton knelt down to meet his daughter's eyes. She was so small, so innocent, so completely unequipped to understand the ugliness of the world that was crashing down around them. "Baby, listen to me. Daddy didn't do anything wrong. Sometimes people believe things that aren't true. Sometimes they say mean things without knowing all the facts." "But why?" Rachel's eyes glistened with tears. "Why do people think you're a bad person?" Clinton pulled her into a hug, holding her tight so she wouldn't see that he was crying too. "Sometimes people judge others because they look different. It's not fair, and it's not right. But I need you to know something, okay? I need you to know that your daddy would never, ever hurt anyone. Can you believe that for me?" Rachel nodded against his chest. "I believe you, Daddy. That's my girl." He held her until she fell asleep, then carried her to bed and stood in the doorway watching her breathe. This was what he was fighting for. Not his job, not his reputation, her, a 7-year-old girl who deserved a father who could look her in the eyes without shame. A 7-year-old who deserved to grow up in a world that judged people by their actions, not their skin color. That night, alone in his small apartment with the walls closing in around him, Clinton allowed himself to break, just for a moment, just long enough to feel the full weight of what was happening. The job he was losing, the savings that would drain away, the custody arrangement that could be challenged if he couldn't prove financial stability. Then he dried his eyes, straightened his shoulders, and started making a list of everyone who might be able to help. 2 blocks away, in her penthouse that had started to feel more like a prison than a home, Olivia watched the edited video for the 100th time. Something was wrong with it. The more she watched, the more certain she became. The shadow angles didn't match the lobby's lighting. The timestamp showed a time that conflicted with the building's entry logs. And most tellingly, the footage didn't match any of the camera angles from the building's actual security system. Someone had created this, manufactured it, used real footage as a base, and twisted it into something ugly and false. But who? Olivia pulled up the building's security access logs and began scrolling through entries from the night of the party. Most were routine: residents, delivery personnel, maintenance staff. But one entry stood out. At 11:47 p.m., approximately 15 minutes after Clinton had brought her home, someone had accessed the security office using a master key card. The card was registered to Helios Corporation's operations department. Derek Simmons. Olivia's hands began to shake. She picked up her phone and called Megan. "I need you to pull Derek's access records for the night of the anniversary party. Everything. Building entry, system logins, all of it." Megan didn't ask why. 20 minutes later, she sent a file that confirmed everything Olivia suspected. Derek had accessed the security office. Derek had downloaded footage from multiple cameras. Derek had been logged into video editing software on his company laptop at 3 in the morning. The next day, Olivia called Derek into her office. He arrived with his usual confident smile, settling into the chair across from her desk as if he owned the room. "You wanted to see me, Olivia?" She studied his face, looking for cracks in the mask. "I've been reviewing some of the security footage from the night of the anniversary party." "Oh?" Derek's expression remained pleasant, but his shoulders tensed almost imperceptibly. "Anything interesting?" "You tell me. You accessed the security office that night, around midnight. Why?" For a split second, something flickered in Derek's eyes. Fear? Surprise? It was gone before Olivia could identify it, replaced by smooth confidence. "I must have left something in my car and needed to check the garage cameras. You know how these things are." "At midnight? After the party ended?" Derek shrugged. "I'm a dedicated employee." Olivia opened her laptop and turned it to face him. On the screen was a side-by-side comparison. The original security footage showing Clinton gently guiding her through the entrance, and the edited version that had been circulating online. "This video is fake," she said. "Someone created it using real footage as a base and edited it to make Clinton look violent. The timestamps are wrong. The lighting is wrong. And the camera angle that supposedly captured this doesn't exist in our security system." Derek's smile didn't falter. "That's quite an accusation. I have your access logs, your editing software records, the files you downloaded." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Derek leaned forward, and his mask finally slipped. "You think anyone's going to believe you?" His voice was soft, almost gentle. "You're the CEO who got drunk at a company party and had to be carried home by the help. Your credibility is already in the gutter. Even if you show people those logs, you know what they'll say? They'll say you're protecting him. They'll wonder what really happened that night to make you so desperate to clear his name." Olivia felt ice spreading through her veins. "You won't get away with this." Derek stood, adjusting his jacket. "I've been getting away with things my whole life, Olivia. You're the one who's in over her head." "Always have been." He walked to the door, then turned back with one final smile. "By the way, I heard the board is calling an emergency meeting next week. Something about leadership concerns. I'm sure it's nothing to worry about. The door closed behind him, leaving Olivia alone with the weight of everything she had failed to do and everything she still could. She looked at the original footage one more time. At Clinton's kind face, at the care in his movements, at the man whose life was being destroyed because she had been too afraid to speak the truth. No more. The company-wide meeting was scheduled for Friday at 2 o'clock in the main auditorium. Every employee received the same cryptic email from the board chairman. Mandatory attendance. Important announcement regarding recent events. Derek Simmons arrived early, positioning himself in the front row with the easy confidence of a man who believed he had already won. The emergency board meeting earlier that week had gone exactly as he had planned. Questions had been raised about Olivia's judgment, her fitness for leadership, her ability to handle crisis. Seeds of doubt that Derek had spent 2 years planting were finally bearing fruit. In the back of the auditorium, Clinton sat alone. He wasn't supposed to be there. Suspended employees weren't typically invited to company meetings, but Megan had sent him a text that morning with just 3 words. "Come, trust me." So he came. He sat in the last row near the exit, wearing the only suit he owned and wondering if this would be the day his life officially fell apart. Rachel was at school, blissfully unaware that her father's fate was being decided in a corporate auditorium across town. Mrs. Patterson had promised to pick her up if Clinton wasn't home by 3. The room filled quickly. 300 employees finding seats, checking phones, whispering to each other about what the announcement might be. Clinton felt their eyes on him, curious, hostile, pitying. He kept his gaze fixed on the empty stage and waited. At exactly 2 o'clock, Olivia Ward walked onto the platform. She looked different than she had at the anniversary party. The vulnerability Clinton had glimpsed that night was gone, replaced by something harder, more resolute. She wore a simple black blazer and carried a laptop under her arm. When she reached the podium, she didn't smile or offer pleasantries. She simply connected her laptop to the projection system and faced the crowd. 2 weeks ago, she began, her voice steady and clear, something happened that I need to address publicly. Many of you have seen footage of me being helped into my apartment building by Clinton Grant, one of our drivers. That footage was edited, manipulated, and distributed to make it appear that Mr. Grant acted inappropriately toward me. A murmur rippled through the auditorium. Derek shifted in his seat, his confident expression flickering. What I'm about to show you is the original, unedited security footage from that night. Olivia pressed a button, and the screen behind her came to life. The room watched in silence as the real video played. Clinton supporting Olivia's weight with careful, measured movements. Clinton keeping his hands in appropriate positions. Clinton guiding her through doors and down hallways with the patience of someone whose only concern was getting her home safely. When the footage reached the moment in her apartment where she had reached for him, begging him not to leave, several people in the audience gasped. They saw Clinton gently pull away. They saw him settle onto the couch. They saw a man who had done nothing wrong. "That," Olivia said when the video ended, "is the truth. Clinton Grant never touched me inappropriately. He never took advantage of me. He did exactly what he was asked to do. Help me get home safely. And he did it with more dignity and care than I deserved." She clicked to the next slide, which displayed a series of access logs and timestamps. The edited footage that has been circulating was created by someone within this company, someone who accessed our security system, downloaded the original files, and manipulated them to destroy an innocent man's reputation. Derek's jaw tightened. He glanced toward the exits, calculating. "That person," Olivia continued, "is Derek Simmons." The auditorium erupted. Heads turned toward Derek. Voices rose in shock and disbelief. Derek stood, his face contorted with rage. This is ridiculous. She's trying to deflect from her own. Sit down, Mr. Simmons. The board chairman, a silver-haired man named Robert Hayes, rose from his seat near the front. His voice carried the weight of decades of authority. We've reviewed Ms. Ward's evidence. It has confirmed that your credentials were used to access and modify the security footage. Your company laptop contains the editing software and the original files. Legal is already involved. 2 security guards appeared at Derek's sides. He looked around wildly, searching for allies, finding none. You can't do this. I've given 15 years to this company. And now you're giving your resignation, Robert said. Effective immediately. Security will escort you out. As Derek was led away, his eyes met Olivia's. The hatred there was pure and undiluted, but Olivia didn't flinch. She simply turned back to the audience and continued. What happened to Clinton Grant was wrong. It was wrong that he was accused. It was wrong that he was suspended. It was wrong that his reputation was attacked and his livelihood threatened. Her voice caught slightly, but she pressed on. And I was part of that wrongness. When I woke up that morning and asked him if he had touched me, I wasn't asking because I had any real reason to believe he had. I was asking because I was afraid, and because somewhere deep down, I had absorbed the same prejudices that many people carry without even realizing it. I looked at Clinton, a black man in my apartment, and I assumed the worst. That was my failure, my shame. The auditorium was completely silent now. Clinton felt his throat tighten. Clinton Grant is not just innocent, Olivia said. He is one of the most honorable men I have ever met, and this company owes him more than an apology. She looked directly at him, finding him in the back row. Clinton, would you please come forward? Every head turned. Clinton felt frozen in place, his legs refusing to cooperate. But then he thought of Rachel. He thought of the promise he had made to her, that he would never do anything wrong, that he would always be someone she could be proud of. He thought of his late wife, Monica, who had believed in him even when the world didn't. He stood and walked toward the stage. The walk felt endless. Each step carried the weight of 4 years of service, 2 weeks of hell, and a lifetime of being judged before he opened his mouth. When he reached the platform, Olivia extended her hand. He shook it, and her grip was firm, sincere. On behalf of Helios Corporation, she said, I am officially restoring Clinton Grant to full employment with back pay for the duration of his suspension, plus additional compensation for the hardship he and his family have endured. Applause broke out, tentative at first, then stronger. Clinton saw Megan in the crowd, wiping tears from her eyes. But Olivia wasn't finished. We're also creating a new position, Diversity and Inclusion Coordinator. This role will oversee a company-wide initiative to address unconscious bias, promote equity, and ensure that what happened to Clinton never happens to anyone else at Helios. She turned to face him directly. Clinton, I'd like to offer you that position. The company will sponsor a 6-month management training program to help you transition into the role. You'd be helping to build something meaningful, not just for Helios, but for everyone who walks through our doors. Clinton stared at her, overwhelmed. 3 weeks ago, he had been a driver. A week ago, he had been a pariah. And now he was being offered a chance to turn his nightmare into something that could help others. I don't know what to say, he admitted. Olivia smiled, the first genuine smile he had ever seen from her. You don't have to decide right now. Take the weekend. Think about it. But I hope you'll say yes. He said yes. The management training program was harder than anything Clinton had ever done. He was the oldest person in most of his classes, surrounded by fresh-faced MBA graduates who spoke in jargon he had to Google at night. But he worked twice as hard as everyone else, because that was what he had always done. And by the end of 6 months, he had earned the respect of his instructors and peers alike. The Diversity and Inclusion Initiative launched that spring. Clinton led workshops where employees shared their experiences, their biases, their fears. He brought in speakers from different backgrounds. He created safe spaces for difficult conversations. And slowly, week by week, he watched the culture at Helios begin to shift. It wasn't perfect. Change never is. There were still whispers in hallways, still people who looked at him and saw only his skin color. But there were also employees who stopped him in the break room to thank him, managers who implemented his suggestions, young black employees who told him they finally felt like they belonged. 1 year after the anniversary party, Clinton stood in his new office, a small space on the 7th floor with a window overlooking the city, and allowed himself to feel proud. Olivia stopped by regularly. Their relationship had evolved into something neither of them had expected, a genuine friendship built on mutual respect and shared purpose. She sought his advice on company policies. He offered honest feedback without fear of retaliation. They were equals in a way that their original positions had never allowed. Rachel adored her. Miss Liv, as she called her, had a way of making the 7-year-old feel special, bringing her books, asking about her school projects, treating her like a person rather than an appendage of her father. Olivia, who had spent most of her adult life keeping people at arm's length, found herself looking forward to their Sunday afternoon visits more than she would have admitted to anyone. It was during one of these visits that Rachel presented Clinton with a drawing. The three of them had spent the afternoon at the park, feeding ducks and eating ice cream that dripped onto their fingers faster than they could lick it off. Now they were back at Clinton's apartment, and Rachel had disappeared into her room to work on something she called a surprise. When she emerged, she was holding a piece of construction paper covered in crayon marks. "It's for you, Daddy," she announced, handing it over with the solemnity of a diplomat presenting a treaty. Clinton studied the drawing. 3 figures stood in a row, holding hands. One was clearly him, brown skin, big smile. One was Rachel, recognizable by her pigtails. And the third was a woman with yellow crayon hair and a blue dress. "This is beautiful, baby," Clinton said. "But who's this?" He pointed to the blonde figure. Rachel looked at him like he had asked something very obvious. "That's Miss Liv." Olivia leaned over to see. Something in her expression shifted. Something soft and surprised. "Why did you draw Miss Liv?" Clinton asked. Rachel considered the question seriously, the way only children can. "Because she's our friend now, and because she told the truth to make people stop being mean to you." She looked up at her father with eyes that held more wisdom than a 7-year-old should possess. "Mrs. Patterson says people who tell hard truths are brave. So Miss Liv is brave, and I wanted her in our picture." Clinton looked at the drawing, at the 3 figures holding hands, at his daughter's innocent representation of a friendship that had been forged in fire, and he found that he couldn't speak. Olivia reached out and squeezed his shoulder. "I didn't do anything brave," she said quietly. "I just did what I should have done from the beginning." But Clinton shook his head. He thought about that morning in her apartment, when a single question had nearly destroyed his life. He thought about the weeks of accusation and isolation and fear. And he thought about the moment when Olivia had stood on that stage and chosen truth over comfort, justice over self-preservation. "You did more than tell the truth," he finally managed. "You gave me my life back." Rachel tugged on his sleeve. "Daddy? Why are you crying?" Clinton wiped his eyes and pulled his daughter into a hug, looking over her shoulder at Olivia, who was blinking back tears of her own. "I'm not sad, baby," he said. "Sometimes grown-ups cry because they're happy, because they're grateful. Because someone said something that reminded them how good the world can be." Rachel seemed satisfied with this explanation. She wriggled free and ran to get more paper, already planning her next masterpiece. Clinton carefully set the drawing on the coffee table where it would stay for years to come, a reminder of the morning that had left him speechless and the truth that had set them all free.